We're going to do a brief instructional video tutorial on how this TotaLoom thing works. And it basically uses what I call pin bars, which are bars with pins that carry the pins in the pin loom. What happened was when I was building these, I realized that all the labor is placing those pins. The rest of it is fairly straightforward, but putting those pins in is tedious, so I thought they're going to have to do double duty. I'm not doing that for every loom I want. So I made them reusable in different sizes and shapes of looms. To do that, you have the pin bar and then you have these corner pieces. Now we're going to do a 4x4 loom because that is the 4x4 square loom is the commonest one. And I put the screws in. Now the pin bars can actually go either way. I put the screws to the inside set of holes and they work, everything lines up. Or I can put them to the outside set of holes and again everything lines up. The reason I normally use the outside set of holes when I can is they stay out of the way of my weaving. But that's basically it. Now the next thing is, of course, to run the screws down. The little tool that comes in the TotaLoom kits, and it's just a 3/32 Allen wrench, and it fits. Then you run them down. I like to run them down loosely first, just kind of finger tight, just to make sure everything's lined up and that the loom looks the way I want. And I tend to do every other one because, coming from a mechanical background, that's how you do that. You make sure the forces stay even that way. And you run down all 8 of them. Now, if they act sticky, and they can sometimes, I'll show you what's causing that. If this is not just exactly flat, if you got it in there just a little, sideways like that, where there's a gap there, see the gap right there? That will cause the screw to feel like it is jammed somehow, not dry, and it's because the alignment is it's pretty precise on these things. So you have to get them lined up right and get that thing good and flat, and then they run right down. Now once in a while you will get one where a drop of the glue or the finish got into the hole, or who knows what. Things happen. But when that happens, I put a little beeswax on the screws and run them down, and they run down just fine. That's the only thing I've ever had any real problem with, running them down though. So there's our loom all ready to weave a 4x4. This is set up for diagonal or continuous strand weaving. More about that in the instructional video. One thing you'll notice, these pins in the very corners are removable, and I generally work with them removed because it gives me more room to run a crochet hook in there. So that's why they are removable. And on the very sharp angles, like this one, they're all removed, or they're all removable because there's just no room in there for the pins. So you take them out, do your weaving, then put them in when you need them. Briefly, here's how you would change the size of a TotaLoom. Let's say you wanted to make an 8x4-inch rectangle. First thing I've done, of course, is remove a couple of screws so that I can take the 4 inches out. And then it's just a matter of putting an 8-inch in its place. So that's pretty simple. I mean, I'm not going to elaborate much on it. And there you have it, an 8x4 TotaLoom ready to weave. Now that would be rectangular weaving. I haven't found a way to do continuous strand on this, so you'd be putting these pins back in. More on that in another instructional video on how to weave. But another way to achieve an 8-inch pin bar is if you happened to have 4-inch on hand, Ronald, there, is put your 4-inch in a connector, and there you have an 8-inch pin bar. So that gives you some flexibility. The other thing that allows some additional flexibility is that we have different angle corners available from stock. This is a 60-degree corner. So now I'm going to put together a 6120 tumbling block, as it's called. That's why the T's was for tumbling block. I found out that this 60-degree angle and this 120-degree angle that are used in the tumbling block can be used in other configurations. A star, 6-pointed star, a hex, all kinds of things. So rather than call them a tumbling block, some of the new ones are just stamped 60, 120, so that you don't get, so that it's not confusing. The 45s look very similar. I can barely tell them apart, so I stamp those 45, 135, again to avoid confusion. This is how you would make a parallelogram. You just take the corners, and as with any TotaLoom configuration, you drop the pin bars in where you need them. Well, Ron, there. I think I'd never done that before. And run the screws down. And again, I like to keep the screws to the outside of the weaving area when I can. In this case, I am able to. And you just drop the screws in and run them down. And again, I'm not going to make you see that, but different corner options are available. And if you follow Ravelry or follow the PinLoom group on Facebook, you will see some of the other configurations we're experimenting with, like chevrons or large parallelograms or large rectangles, 8 by 20 and things like that. So you just run the screws down. Now on this configuration, I will tell you that all 3 pins are removable. That is by design, because that is such a narrow angle you can't get in there with a tool. So they're removable when you need them. When you need them, you put them back in. Why fight them if you don't have to? That's all. That's the TotaLoom. It's TotaLoom.etsy.com. Hope you like it. Thank you.